So, I hope that you feel with me, dear ladies and gentlemen, that this is a good morning. And I would like to welcome you to this fair digital kick-off event. Warm welcome, everyone, wherever you are. My name is Fredrik Kempfe, and I am a Director of Industry Affairs on the Swedish Aviation Industry Group, which is part of the Swedish Confederation of Transport Enterprises. Just a few minutes of, or 1 minute with some practical information. We have a very interesting agenda for you for this digital kickoff of FAIR. Very interesting presentations from a number of persons active in the project and supporting the project in various ways. There will be a possibility during the presentations that you can ask questions in the chat function. And we will then, at the end of the event, we will then collect the questions and be able to distribute them to the speakers and try to answer them as good as we can, as well as we can. Now, we are all spread out. This is a bit of an experiment, what we're doing here, I think, with speakers everywhere. I'm sitting in Stockholm, in Nacka, on the east side of Stockholm. And we have on location in Umeå and Vasa, we have some both technical crews and speakers, and then we will have also some speakers calling in. So we hope that everything will work out fine, but bear with us if we have some technical issues along the way. We hope not. And of course, if this would have been a normal meeting, we would have been able to shake hands and see each other more in person, but we are also experiencing the corona situation, and wherever you are, please stay corona safe, and as usual, wherever you are, have a look at where your nearest emergency exit is. In my apartment, I know where the door is, so that should not be a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to be moderating this morning, and let me tell you that I'm very, very happy to do that. And I have to, of course, ask myself why. Why am I so happy? Well, it's not just because I'm a huge fan and proponent of both aviation and connectivity and development of sustainable aviation. And it's not just because I'm also a very big optimist and fan of electric aviation. And I can see now that it's finally moving in the direction of commercial aviation driven by electricity. It's moving from fiction to science to practical implementations very quickly now. And it's not just that electrical aviation will be a game changer for the aviation industry, and I'm sure we will hear about that today. No, it's actually all that and more too, especially the fantastic perspectives to create a completely new regional connectivity, connecting people and cultures. I can now hear someone saying some wonderful words in Finnish that I unfortunately do not understand, but maybe if we try to mute our microphones and then eventually then unmute when it's time. And anyway, it's this regional connectivity, the boost of regional connectivity between culture, civilizations, and people. That's exactly what makes the FAIR project so interesting and relevant exactly now. This is a pole position for future connectivity. But enough about me and my thoughts on this. It's time to present the first speakers today. And I would like to welcome Mattias Lindström. He's the director of the Kvarken Council. And as you probably know, the Kvarken Council is one of 12 official cross-border operatives funded by the Nordic Council of Ministers. The Kvarken Council is also the lead part of the FAIR project. And together with Joakim Strand, Joakim is a member of parliament in Finland. He is the chairman of the Finnish Parliament Committee for the Future and chairman of the City Council in Vasa and chairman of the Kvarken Council. Together, Mattias and Joakim will introduce what we are here to witness this morning. Please, Mattias, take the floor or screen.
Thank you all, and I hope that you hear and see me. Dear participants in this kick-off meeting for our FAIR project, and greetings from the beautiful Åland Islands, where I'm actually on a vacation at the moment on a hunting trip, and that explains also the outfit. But as Fredrik said, I am Mattias Lindström, Director for the Council, who is also the lead partner in this fine project and also one of the initiators, and I am also the chairman of the steering committee for this FAIR project. As you all know, FAIR stands for Finding Innovations to Accelerate Implementation of Regional Electric Aviation, and we have come a very long way since we initiated this project in early 2019. And the development related to electric aviation as a whole has been enormous in this relatively short period of time, and we see new projects popping up every day almost. In this seminar, we have over 120 persons participating, and we are very happy that you all are here present today. The success of this project is actually depending on the input and the active participation from all of you partners, external stakeholders and experts, because we don't sit on all this knowledge that you in our enlarged partnership have. Our aim, as you all know, is regional development through electric aviation and innovations related to this. We can do this together, I'm very sure about that, and we have great opportunities here in the Nordic countries to become forerunners in early implementation of electric aviation. We have the distances, we have the demand, we have energy available, and we also have the technology. But most important of all, in my opinion, is that we have the ambition and the drive to do this, and that we have shown this also in earlier projects. The project would not have been able to get funding without the strong political support that we have from our politicians that are not afraid to stand in the front line for ambitious projects aiming into the future. And I want to take the opportunity to thank you all for your support. And we have two of you speaking here today. We are also very proud of the partnership we have formed around FAIR, and I'm really looking forward to this day. And I'm sure that the day will help the project in the right direction. And I hope also that the project during its running time will result in several spin-off projects in order to push the implementation of regional electric aviation forward. But we have a long list of interesting people speaking here today, experts in the area, so I will not take up too much time. So with these words, once again, warmly welcome and thank you for participating. And I now give the word to the moderator, Fredrik. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you, Mattias. So we go directly to Mr. Joachim Strand, if the technology will be with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Fredrik. Dear ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to have the opportunity and possibility to welcome all of you to this digital kickoff event. Myself, I am in a studio in the Nordic energy capital Vaasa, and unlike Mattias, I am not on holiday, which also explains my outfit. It's really fantastic that so many of you are able to attend this meeting today, and I'm very glad that you, as we do, see the possibilities for our region and the Nordic countries of becoming a leading region in this area and all it entails regarding new business opportunities, new innovations, and cooperation with new interesting partners and friends. As Mattias said, all of this also requires the involvement of the private sector, and we are extremely grateful and proud to have many of you with us in this project. Dear friends, in order to become a leader in a field, you need to dare to take the opportunities and also to take some risks. Then you can, with a common goal and good partners, achieve something great. The most modern and most environmentally friendly ferry in the world, the floating laboratory Aurora Botnia that we are building now in this region, is one good example of our track record, and FAIR definitely falls within the same category. On the national level in Finland, there is a growing interest in electrical aviation, and also the Committee for the Future really supports this project. I've seen that also in Sweden and in Norway. They have great ambitions on the national level of developing electric-powered flights. However, these ambitions are extremely valuable, but to really make things happen, you often need regional activity with partners that want to compete on a global level. And me, myself, I see it as 120% clear that the implementation of electric flights requires this type of regional initiatives, and FAIR is an extremely good example of this. So with this project, we can bring together the Nordic electrical aviation projects and together become the global leader in this field. And by helping, dear friends, by helping the world to accelerate the implementation of electrical aviation and also other types of efficient and sustainable ways of traveling, as well as the technology relating to this, we are also taking very important steps to reach the Paris climate targets. So once more, warmly welcome to this kickoff event. It's a great pleasure to have you all with us, and I'm very much looking forward to get to learn also those of you who are not yet friends for us here in the Kvarken region. Thank you and have a great day. Over to Stockholm, Fredrik.
Thank you very much, Joachim, and Matthias, for your very interesting opening statements. I must say that the leadership that you display by your work in this region is really appreciated and remarkable. And I must say that being someone from the Stockholm region, not by native, but I'm living there, I'm quite jealous to see how vision becomes concrete actions in your region. Now, I already mentioned that electric aviation has the potential to become a real game changer. And we are fortunate to have as a next speaker, we hope at least online, Professor Jorma Menttinen. Now, maybe from the technical side, I would first ask if Mr. Menttinen is online. So,
potential of electric aviation. I use example Finland, but of course this is also true in other countries also. So there are some long-term driving forces which are affecting very much to the aviation industry. One is climate change, and that demands to improve aircrafts and also aviation operating models. And of course, this pandemic situation, which led to collapse of commercial aviation, so it will be a basis for something new. Now is the right time to create something new, and this electric aviation is one of these new things. Urbanization is also a very, very strong trend and driving force. Over half of the world population is living in urban areas nowadays, and it's increasing. But there are also some counter forces, so that people prefer also to live in smaller places in the future, and that's a very interesting situation and constellation. In the big megacities, there is crowded transport, and there is alternative transport modes, and also the electric aviation with small aircrafts will have a nice future. And if we see the multi-locality, it's a phenomenon of this day. So it will increase the demand for both large and smaller airports. I think that the smaller airports will have a very nice future in Finland and in Sweden also. And these small and medium-sized electric aircrafts will be very suitable for the demand. Then the aviation technology and operating models also is the answer to this urbanization and its counter forces. Then we have the technology. It's very, very strong driver, which is improving very many problems and also the energy questions. And in this respect, the demand of electric aviation is very, very important. And also the liquid energy and renewable energy, there is going on great steps in this development work. Quite many times people forget that very, very many things are happening on the aviation branch, and quite many times it's only seen the problems that it causes CO2 emissions and so on, but a lot is going on. And of course, also this trend, technology and energy trend, will give new possibilities for why we need aviation in Finland and other countries. Of course, there are at least three kind of needs. One is business life. Good accessibility is a necessity for export companies. For instance, in the Vaasa region, there are very big export companies, and in the whole coast area, and also the customers should have a very nice connections to these factories. And I think that companies everywhere in Finland, or at least in Finland, must be able to be part of global supply networks. The other branch is research and development work, which is very international. So there are people in universities and research institutes and public organizations which need good connections to the world. And tourism, which is now in great troubles for the pandemic situation, but it will give in normal conditions about 5 billion euros every year. And the tourists, they have a very limited time budget, and they have to reach their destinations fast. And that's why we need the airport network. The value of Finnish export and services and goods, it's about 90 billion euros annually. And because we are behind the Baltic Sea, that's why we need the international connections and air transport. We are going towards the new era of aviation, and that's why we are on this webinar also. Current state, or in fact, before current state, or before pandemic state, it was so that the Finnish air transport was very Helsinki oriented, and there were very concentrated flows to Helsinki-Vantaa, and quite many traffic flows were quite thin, and because aviation is volume business, there was difficulties for airlines to supply, and that caused problems to regional airports. They have difficulties, and that reflects to the export industry very strongly. So it's very undesirable situation today and yesterday. And when we go to the future, we should take into use much more airports. We have about 80 bigger and small airports in Finland, and we have to use them more. And in this way, we can match supply and demand better together. One very, very essential thing is the right size aircrafts and the right time. Of course, we need new technology and business models also, and very many kind of operators. This is a very brief vision for the new era of aviation. It should be customer-oriented, carbon neutral, and cost-effective. So we have, of course, the scheduled flights in the future also, from some origins to some destinations, of course, but still more and more business jet flights, air taxis, and also this electric vertical takeoff and landing aircrafts in these urban areas, and of course they can be used also in rural areas. Then many kind of drones, for instance cargo and parcel drones. And then the remote tower center is one example of a technology, and the new era fuels, renewable fuels, and very interesting area, this electric and hybrid aircrafts. So we have a start from the bottom. We have to do our airport infrastructure more cost effective. It's absolutely necessary to do that, and there we should have technology and new operators and new models how to operate these airports most cost effective way. Then the aircrafts, and in this Kvarken project we are developing the electric aviation, electric aircraft. So very many technological possibilities in this aircraft sector. Then the aviation supply, and we need of course scheduled flights, but even more and more demand driven flights, and the purpose is to reply or fulfill the needs of customer needs, meeting the customer needs in better way than today. There are some new technologies, which is electric aviation and remote tower services, which Sweden is one of the leading countries in the whole world. Then the unmanned aircraft systems like drones and so on. Then satellite-based augmentation systems, which are also cost effective and safer and more effective. Then 5G will give possibilities to the information and communication, and this eVTOL, electric vertical takeoff and landing electric air taxis. And of course on the land side, the automation of land transport at the area of airports and feeding transport and so many areas. These are only some examples. Then hybrid and electric airplanes, what will they enable? Lower emissions and cheaper maintenance, and new profitable routes, and the new era of regional airports, smaller noise footprint, cheaper flight licenses, to say some examples. And there are very serious purposes to do this electric aviation through. For instance, in Norway, they are aiming that practically all domestic traffic in Norway should be electric by 2040. Then Sweden's Elisa project, where the 400 kilometers regional flights might be electric, and this Merenkurkku Kvarken project, which we are listening and seeing now. There is a forecast of International Air Transport Association, which is quite, I think that it's not very ambitious. I think that these electric airlines, electric aircrafts might be earlier in traffic than. And then this small aircrafts, which will help in urban areas. There are some actors like Uber, which are very interested in this. Then Fraport, who is very big airport operator in Germany. They are doing cooperation in Volocopter, and they use these smaller aircrafts as feeder transport solutions. And even Boeing, which is a great player in the markets, they are developing also various air taxis, and they will give totally new options to development of aviation trip chains and very many options, especially in urban areas. Dear participants, I will close my presentation to this picture. Future aviation is carbon neutral, customer oriented and cost efficient. So we should take very great steps in new aviation technologies like electric aviation. Then we should create new business models, and in this way we can reach the prosperous aviation markets in the future. Thank you very much for your interest.
There we are. I hope you can still hear me, and a great thank you to Professor Mäntinen. We were not sure if the connection was working well, so that's my short introduction of Professor Mäntinen. But his presentation was, as we could see, excellent. And with all that experience from various industries, and certainly in civil aviation, I believe that Professor Mäntinen has really the perspectives that we need, and the expertise, the experience that we need to understand the possibilities of electrification of aviation. So I'm very grateful for his contribution. I would even say that after listening to Professor Mäntinen, that we're not only looking at a game-changing technology, but I would say even a life-changing technology that is developing right now. Because with this kind of transportation, and also on demand, as we could see transportation, we will be able to transport ourselves in a completely different way, and this will change our lives. Move now to the next section of the agenda. We will now look at electric aviation from the perspectives of stakeholders. And I just Googled, actually, I was interested myself, what is one of the definitions of stakeholder? And I read here directly from a translation from Cambridge. Stakeholder is a person such as an employee, customer, or citizen who is involved with an organization, society, or else, and therefore has responsibilities and interest towards it, and interest in its success. So what better way to introduce then the stakeholders' perspective? And I'm very happy to have three such holders of stake here today. And I would first ask Mrs. Åsa Ågren Wikström to take the speaker stand. And let me just introduce her. Åsa is the vice chairman of the Regional Development Committee of the region of Västerbotten, and a board member of the Kvarken Council. And Åsa will discuss with us and present to us the role that the region of Västerbotten can have in the implementation of electric aviation in this region. So I hope the technology works, and Åsa, the screen is yours.
Thank you so much. As my previous colleagues just mentioned, we are gathering here today digitally, obviously, and our technology is now working, so let's move on. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for this opportunity to be a part of this interesting seminar. We have a number of talented speakers and colleagues who will present this even more, and I think and I hope that you as well as I are very interested in this matter. Do what you can with what you have where you are. This is a normal state of mind for those of us who live in the northern part of Sweden and Finland, I dare to say. But we also recognize that you can do more if you do it together in cooperation. This project, FAIR, is a perfect example of this. The air traffic and aviation in our part of Europe is of major importance for regional growth and quality of life, based on the investments made in the basic industries, world leading, as well as in a growing tourism industry, or for the healthcare sector. And that pretty much sums up our responsibilities from the County of Västerbotten, Region Västerbotten. And at the same time, we have the climate change issues to solve. Electrical aviation is, in this perspective, one way to meet these challenges. The pandemic became global very quickly, and this year hasn't been as any as we have experienced before in recent years. In many ways, it has been a game changer, as I think it was Fredrik who mentioned earlier. As one of the more obvious things is that we meet here today digitally instead of in person. The digital infrastructure has been enhanced during recent years and is of course here to stay as a way to be able to work where you live or closer to your home. But I think we still have the need to meet each other in person in order to be able to find new solutions and innovations. When smart people get together to talk, good things tend to happen. We also see that with our long distances between each other, we need smart and fast way of traveling in our region. For instance, when I have the opportunity to meet colleagues from all over Europe to talk about our region, it seems to be easier to understand our size when I say that the region of Västerbotten alone is about the same size as Denmark or Holland. We have our share of challenges like demographic change, urbanization, long distances, as we talked about earlier, and not sufficiently good east-west communications. And of course, the global need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and environmental impact. This project is one example of a shared vision of a more climate-smart way to travel and the need for infrastructure to do this. From my point of view, I'd like to be able to contribute with relevant decision-making in order to let researchers, companies and other smart people come together to create solutions to our problems. In the most areas, I usually ask, what's the problem and what's stopping innovation? Meaning, which necessary decisions do you need from us? As a politician on a regional, national and European level, my role and job isn't to innovate new technology, but rather to have a vision of our future in our part of the world. And it may sound like big words, I'm aware of that, especially for us in the northern Sweden. But I know that when we all contribute with everyone's special skills, we can do great things together. And I think this project is one of the many proofs of that. And this is one of the reasons that I'm looking forward to following this interesting project. And my goal is to contribute by creating the conditions required for better results for our region. Today's program, as you have seen, is very interesting, and I'm looking forward to listen to all colleagues involved in this. And by that, I wrap it up for now, and I hope to come back to you later. And just let me say to you this. It's not always what we can do for you, but what you can do for us, and the other way around, of course. So with that, I pass back to Fredrik, and thank you for this.
Thank you so much, Åsa, for an interesting and highly relevant view. And I think as I very often have discussions with politicians, I can really see the point you're making of facilitating the development rather than doing it yourself. Or we have different roles, and I think that this is really what will be played out in this FAIR project in the most elegant way. Now let's continue with another stakeholder. I would like to welcome Mr. Robert Lindberg, who is the CEO of Skellefteå Airport and Vice Chairman also of the board of the Swedish Regional Airports Association. Now, Robert, I've heard that there's work already in progress, at least planned at your airport to prepare for electric aviation. And this is, of course, extremely interesting for us to hear. So please tell us your view. Welcome to the screen.
Thank you, Fredrik. Yeah, we have a lot of things going on in the northern area, and of course, as always, as the future has shown us, we can't lean back and wait for everything to happen. We have to do things for ourselves. And hello also to my old friends and new friends out there, and hope we will see that we can meet each other in a short while in real life. I'm gonna take the stand what Fredrik said, and also Åsa and Jorma said, but I will take it back 15 years and see the fantastic A800 phone that was released. It was astonishing. It had 2 megapixel camera, and you can play a video game that called Worms. It was only 15 years ago, and of course now we predict the future, and the future will come to us much faster than we expected. And now the Volocopter, as Jorma said, is flying, and perhaps in a couple of years we will have the Volocopter in operational in real life, that you can fly. I told to my children for not so long ago that when I was 5 or 10 years ago, I didn't think that I would drive a car that was driven automatic, but of course now I can rent one. And then to the future. The future will what we think about the future will probably be wrong. The technical development will be a lot faster than we predict. But I'm sure that the way we travel will change, and it will change dramatically. That's why we have taken action in Skellefteå, and we are so happy to be a part of this FAIR project and see that we can change the way people can live and work up in the Nordic countries. And that's why we will in the springtime take in operation a 1 megawatt charging solution for electric aircraft. It's just to see that this can be done, and we have the possibilities. The new map. The map, as Jorma said, will be totally redrawn, also because of the pandemic situation. But with hydrogen and electric aviation and biofuel, we will change the way people live and people are traveling. It creates a lot of new opportunities and will significantly improve the accessibility to our regions. Today, unfortunately, we don't do as much business as we want because of the lack of communication. I think that it's a lot easier to meet people in Stockholm than go to Örnsköldsvik or to Vilhelmina or to Finland in that case. Today we have a lot of companies traveling by car up and down. That's of course not very effective. With the new solution, we can increase our region's economy. We can also be a center for electric aviation and also for the region where sustainable fuel is produced. I believe that we need the courage to lead this sustainable transport solution for the future. We have the electricity, we have the raw materials, we have the biofuel, we have a cold climate, and we also have quite empty airspace for testing. And of course, we have a lot of expertise. We have the center of the world when we talk about expertise in this matter. So, what would you choose, develop or liquidation? I used to say that keeping is a dangerous strategy. Keeping is a slow closure of business when you don't have to take a decision. And we want to choose to develop, not liquidation. My last picture, a problem that has a solution isn't a problem. And if it doesn't have a solution, then you can just ignore it. But in this case, I think that we have the solution. Thank you. Back to Fredrik.
Thank you so much, Robert. You and I know that I have, for family reasons, used your airport several times this year and can certainly vouch for the excellence and service of you and your colleagues there. And I'm thrilled to see that this new era of aviation might even start at your airport. This is really amazing. And as you also said, this is something we can do. This is not a problem, it's something we can do. Now I would like to introduce our next stakeholder speaker, and this is Mrs. Trine Varblane. Trine is a project manager in Finland for the Future Cleantech Solution Project, which is a project aimed at increasing cross-border cooperation between cleantech companies, as well as strengthening the conditions for sustainable growth in the Kvarken region. So what better speaker than Trine to tell us a bit more about this? Trine will discuss with us the Future Cleantech project and how electrical aviation jacks into their picture. So please, Trine, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Fredrik, for this introduction and welcoming words. Now, as we are smoothly approaching the west coast of Finland, the city of Vaasa, warmly welcome. As mentioned, my name is Trine Varblane, and I work as an international business developer at Technology Center Merinova. And today I'm also representing the Interreg Botnia Atlantica project called Future Cleantech Solutions. This project includes the following cities and their surrounding regions: Örnsköldsvik, Umeå and Skellefteå in Sweden, and Kalevi, Kokkola and Vaasa in Finland. Our project is one of the co-organizers for this fair kick-off online event. Within this Interreg Botnia Atlantica Future Cleantech Solution project, we are currently working in the Kvarken region to support cleantech companies in different business sectors with information sharing, connecting small and medium-sized companies with ongoing large-scale investments, and developing existing different clusters. Another important part of the project is the work with gender equality, since more equal working places show a higher well-being, better development, and not only an increased profitability, but also an increase in innovations. So that's why we also need to increase the impact of gender equality in the cleantech sector. During the last 2 years and even before, we have been built connections and physically visited each other. We have noticed that even though we are so close to each other, we need to develop easy, accessible connections for our different business sectors. And we really see the need to keep our regions connected to each other and to the world in a sustainable and climate-friendly way. Therefore, one important aim for Future Cleantech Solution project is to develop new methods for companies and organizations to connect, build relations, and make business together. It's not a secret, but on a world scale, we are quite small, and to be honest, we need each other. We also need a strong cooperation and collaboration for the better future. We have all the chances to succeed. So let's not only talk, let's also act. Since we know already that our regions are forerunners in certain cleantech technologies and research fields, we should keep on developing new solutions. We believe strongly that our Kvarken region has a high potential to find solutions for challenges that electric aviation has and ensure the local green accessibility that our region needs. Let us act rapidly and responsibly and think big. Let's make our local regions global forerunners in electric aviation. I'm so happy and proud that our region will become the pilot platform to test these new solutions. We, in the Future Cleantech Solution Project Group, are ready and eagerly waiting to be able to connect local companies and technologies to the needs of the FAIR project. Thus, we are happy to start this cooperation today. Sorry, I mean already yesterday. We wish you all the best for the FAIR project. Thank you all. And now back to you, Fredrik, in Stockholm.
Thank you so much, Trine. Really appreciate the fantastic work that you are doing here. And I had this thought that if the Kvarken region would be a garden, you would be the gardener to make it bloom with clean tech solutions. And this is the perspective that I think we can have also with us as we move on in this virtual meeting. The time has come for some summary and reflections. We have heard some very interesting speakers, starting with Matthias and Joachim, giving us their high, let's say, bird level perspective on the project, the work that will be done in the project. And we also could enjoy the perspectives of Professor Jorma Mentynen, who explained to us why electric aviation has all the potentials to change the landscape of travel and connectivity in a clean way. And I summarized myself with the words, this is true regionalization. This is really the facilitator that, together with other transport modes, of course, where that is more appropriate, have the ability to lift us and the regions to a completely new level. Jorma spoke about the 3 C's, as I understood it: customer orientated, carbon free, cost effective transport. So these 3 C's, maybe we can make them into 4 and 5 during the day together. Let's build on that. And then we heard from Åsa, and Åsa explained to us that we can do this in cooperation. And it's really pertinent, I think, to almost take a pause here and think about it. We have enormous challenges ahead of us. We have to overcome, at the same time, the deepest crisis maybe what we have seen in peacetime, the corona crisis, and certainly for transportation and personal transportation, the deepest crisis certainly in the lifetime. And at the same time, we have to find ways to battle climate change. Now, these things come together, and it's almost like the perfect storm. But the important thing is here that we don't isolate ourselves, because there is a tendency and also I think a human reaction to, in times of crisis, you look only at your own situation, but we have to do it completely in a different way. We have to do it in the cooperation to change things. And we will meet digitally, as Åsa said, but we will also meet physically to create that future that we want. And again, the perspective of having this process, at least partly run from the Kvarken region, is amazing, I think. Then we heard from Robert about the need to look forward and to prepare for this change that will come. I love to see this picture of the mobile phone and think about that this was only 15 years ago. Now, where we are in 15 years from now, we can only imagine. But the wonderful thing is that we here, and certainly those in the FAIR project, have had a chance to test fly the electric plane. And I think that was one of those determining moments, at least in my life, when I felt that this is something we not only want but need. It's a game changer on the level that at least I have never experienced. To me, it was much more intrusive to my normal life than when I first traveled with an electric car, for example, which in itself is quite an amazing experience if you never have done that. So that being said, and those would be my reflections from this section, we will then move into the next section, because now we have, let's say, the ingredients, the conditions, we have all the chefs in the kitchen, but now we have to move into the kitchen, because that's where the work will be done. We will go to the FAIR project. And the project, the introduction of the project will be done by the two project managers, Anders Forsgren and Isak Brännström. Are you ready for your presentation? Then please tell us about the project. The screen is yours.
Thank you, Fredrik. And we are indeed ready to tell us about the FAIR project. And if I would say something to summarize FAIR in just a short sentence, and what makes the project actually unique is that it aims to increase the understanding of the regional benefits of electric aviation, a new technology just before it's not even implemented. And that's what makes this FAIR project unique. But to actually understand how such a project starts up in the Kvarken region, I think we have to go back and link to the other speakers and talk a bit about the geography and the transport infrastructure of the region, but also the history of close cross-border cooperation strengthened by the European Union entrance in the 90s. So the region is obviously vast in east-west direction. It also contains two major natural barriers, the Strait of Kvarken to the east and the mountain range between the border of Sweden and Norway to the west, thus resulting in a challenging east-west transport solution. The north-south, why these regions are taking these measures. And linked to electric aviation, once the regions got to learn more about the competitive advantages of this new technology, such as lower emissions, lower fuel and maintenance cost, and hence a possibility to increase the accessibility, the regional accessibility of flight routes. It sounded like the perfect match for the region in order to primarily strengthen the east-west transport possibilities. So what actually happened is that the Kvarken Council applied for a feasibility study, which was granted and started up in November 2019. During this feasibility study, we built a partnership around the FAIR, what are going to become the FAIR project. We also built the content of the FAIR project. And finally, we posted the application in late January 2020. But then, as you all know, something happened. The global outbreak of the pandemic of coronavirus, or COVID-19, kept us a bit worried of what's actually happening in the surrounding area. Anyway, the FAIR project was granted financing by the Botnia Atlantica Interreg program in the 19th of May 2020. The project runtime is, actually it was a bit of a late decision, so the official starting time is the 1st of May to the last of June 2022. The budget is about slightly under 1.1 million euros, where 60% of the financing relates to the Interreg Botnia Atlantica program. And as I said, the uniqueness of this project and the explanation to why it's happening here is to be found in the history of the Kvarken region, and the well-developed wishes to really cooperate in a cross-border perspective. The aim of the project is, in a little bit longer heading, to develop a methodology to support an early and efficient commercialization of electric aviation in the Kvarken region. And that's an overall goal in the project. But how do you actually manage to do that? We have sorted it out in 4 objectives. The project are to deliver information and knowledge about where electric aviation could be implemented in the region, but also to learn more about the regional effect, the societal benefits. Why? To answer the question, why is electric aviation something that is really important to the Kvarken region? We are also going to learn more about the nodes and the transport chains, and what needs there are to take measures in order to be an early implementer of electric aviation. But also to learn more about how do we finance this new infrastructure, what are the needs, and how are there existing channels? If not, we are going to put forward and make sure that in the future there are the necessary financing options for this new infrastructure. We're also going to apply innovative concepts, both for services or products, but mainly business models. How do you support the economic implementation of electric aviation in the Kvarken region? Last but not least important, the project aims to raise the general awareness of electric aviation, and that this technology is not that far away that people could have suspected just a couple of years ago. And that is something we really have experienced in the project management during both the feasibility study, but also during the project runtime, that the amounts of electric aviation and drone projects are really increasing at a rapid pace. But also, if you have looked at the news or the television news, there are now being reports about electric aviation. So I have a firm belief that this is happening and that technique will be available in the close future.
Yes, and in this FAIR project, we are really happy to have a great partnership with us. We have gathered a wide range of actors that we believe have the possibility to accelerate electric aviation both within and beyond our region. The Kvarken Council is the lead part of the project and will form the project work group together with the other beneficiaries, Biofuel Region, the region of Västerbotten, RISE of Sweden, Umeå University, and the University of Vasa. I will soon give the word to some of our colleagues in the work group who will go into more detail about what will be done in the project. But I would also like to take the opportunity to say a great thank you to our financiers in this project. We are truly grateful for their support, and they represent important stakeholders in this process, ranging from our local and regional airports to regional councils, power companies, development companies, municipalities, and the chambers of commerce. And in the extended partnership, we also have a range of interesting actors that we think hold key knowledge for us in this project, and in our process to enhance the implementation of electric aviation. So we would like to say a special thank you to all of them. And what can we expect from this project? Well, we think we should consider FAIR to be a sort of takeoff for electric aviation in this region. and that it will be followed by other projects. It will be followed by more concrete measures taken at the airport level or in the aviation industry in general in our region. But what we will deliver within the project is 4 reports, and as I said, my colleagues from the work group will go into more detail about this and what will be delivered in these reports. But the main focus is to develop the methodology for implementation of electric aviation in the Kvarken region. We have been talking a bit about the effects of COVID-19 on the aviation industry. And as we said, it's both a blessing and a curse in some way. It's an enormous challenge for the industry. It's an aviation industry as a whole is facing strong headwinds. But at the same time, it might be a opportunity for a transition to fossil-free aviation. Because of this situation, we have seen that we need to have a more dynamic process in this project. The conditions for the airline industry is going to change during the coming 2 years of this project. So in order to do that, we have focused on, we will deliver 4 reports in the end of the project, but during the project runtime, we will be holding interim results presentations where the work group will be able to present the results in each work package to the financiers of the project. We also have a competence network connected to this project, and most of you who are watching this right now is part of this competence network. And for those of you who want to be part of the competence network, you could just contact us. And our hope is that this competence network will help us because we see that we need your cooperation to succeed in this project. And with that, I think we will say thank you for now, and over to Fredrik.
So thank you very much, Andreas and Isak. It's really good to have you there as captains of this fantastic flight. And I can also tell you that we are exactly on time. So I think your performance when it comes to the timely delivery is excellent, which I'm sure is also very important in this project. So congratulations. I would also like to mention that, of course, you are representing here, working for Tyrens. And I love the website. I was in there, visited your website some time ago, and I could really see that you are working on some fantastic projects that all are defining our future in a sense, and a more sustainable future that is. So thanks a lot for this. And I also appreciate, sorry about that. I also appreciate the messages how we can participate, and all of us participate in this project, which makes me come back to also the cooperation spirit that is underlying the whole FAIR project. So we already heard you mention a little bit about the work packages, and as we know, no project without VPs. And it's time for us to find out a bit more about the 3 work packages. And we start actually, if I understand correctly, with work package 2. And I would then like to welcome Mr. Arne Smedberg. Arne is the CEO of Biofuel Region, which is a member-owned non-profit organization contributing to a low-carbon vehicle fleet and a well-developed bioeconomy by initiating, collaborating, coordinating projects such as this. And Arne will tell us about guidelines for implementation. So please, Arne, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Fredrik, for the introduction. And as Fredrik said, our role is the work package 2, and it's mapping development of electric aviation in a regional perspective. And we are looking at the national environmental goals for aviation, as in Sweden we have fossil-free aviation in 2030, and in Norwegian they want to be 100% electric. So we think those goals are really important drivers in the change. There's a lot of pros and cons for electric flying. A lot differs from today's flying. It's lower cost on fuel, shorter range, less weight carrier, smaller aircraft, less maintenance cost, lower speed, no emissions, and no CO2. So there's a lot of difference. There is several projects going on in Sweden, and a lot is going on, but still the transition will take time and need effort from many stakeholders. We have to make people interested and believing in this transition. We do an international outlook, and the tech is really improving all the time, and the e-flying has started. Retrofitting can be big in the beginning and the big airline manufacturers are waiting for other solutions as biofuels and fuel cells when their focus is on big, heavy, long-range aircrafts. Small aircrafts types 2 passengers is now on the market, and we are waiting for the commercial types that carries more load and has a range for regional use. Heart is an interesting company in Sweden who will introduce a 19-seater with a range of 400 kilometers in 2025. They are now testing drivelines on ground, and they do a lot of simulated flying. The battery development is crucial to bring bigger planes in the air. Today's battery capacity has to improve if you want to carry more than 50 passengers and range up to 100 or 200 miles. We need chargers at the airports, and now some use conventional car chargers or chargers that the aircraft company brings to the airports and plug in them. It is also a discussion to use the same standard as heavy trucks. Regulation in the industry is really a big issue and has to be able to be developed for use with different drivelines. Today we have 1 certified aircraft, Pipistrel, but more are coming. We also look how could e-flying be better to give accessibility to many kind of users. Financing. How are the economic conditions for regional aviation before COVID and tomorrow? And which are the drivers of development? Who are the key drivers, and what value do they get, and what input can they make in financing? And what needs are there for airlines and airports? And what are the costs involved with this adaptation? Are there any opportunities for financing today that we could use, or should we bring new ones, and how should that financing look like? We will also make an action plan. We will do an inventory of action needs in the region's airport and nodes, as well as carry out cost estimates and propose financing solutions. We want to work close to the region's airports and other players in this process. Thank you. Back to Fredrik.
The screen there as well. Yes, thank you. So thank you very much. Very interesting presentation, and I can see that Work Package 2 has a lot of interesting ingredients important for this work. And I would also like to say that right now, actually at 9 o'clock CET, Norway presented their fossil-free plan, their complete fossil-free plan for aviation this morning. So it's all happening, and interestingly, we are all joining cooperative hands up here in the northern part of Europe. But after Work Package 2 comes, of course, Work Package 1, at least in this case. And to present Work Package 1, we have Professor Lars Westin. And Lars is professor in regional economics at the Center for Regional Science at Umeå University. He's also a board member of the Swedish National Board and Transport Research Institute, VTI, as well as a member of the Scientific Council of Traffic Analysis, Trafikanalys. So we are very curious to hear about Work Package 1, which I hear the title here is the Regional Effects of Electric Aviation. So please, Lars, if you are up and running, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Fredrik. Yes, in this working package, that is a collaboration between us, as you mentioned, and thank you for your introduction at Umeå University. We are also have a collaboration with the University of Vasa with two researchers, where Helka Kalliomäki will add to the presentation after I have started. And in this working package, where we, as you understand, are working together with the other two working packages, our focus is the market analysis for electric aviation, thinking about possible routes for the region of airlines, and also then the important regional impact and study, and also how we can improve the cross-border innovation within the Kvarken area. If we start with the market analysis, we look at both the supply and the demand sides. On the supply side, we are very interested in what sort of attributes the electric aircraft will offer us. And there we are collaborating, of course, with the previous work package that Arne presented. So what aspects of aircrafts will electric aircraft add compared to the current fossil aircrafts? We will also see if this will have impacts for operators, if the existing operators will work in a new way, or if it will also show up new forms of operators on the market. And of course also there is a need for adoption of the airports to take care of the electric aircrafts. Very important is of course the cost of the electric aircraft relative other modes and for over different distances. And here it is traditional cost analysis as we do already now when we compare different modes. So it has to be about the travel time, fare, different sort of social aspects. That's very important now, as you understand, we're connected with fossil aircrafts. Will it be possible to fly again, so to say, with the new aircrafts? Health aspects, safety is important, and of course then the environmental impacts of the new aircrafts. And here we of course hope for major improvements compared to current fossil aircrafts. For us it's also important to discuss the number of operators that will be active, because that will have an impact for the competitive outcome on different roads and different lines, so to say. So we would like to avoid monopolies. And that has also, of course, to do with financing and risk sharing with starting up and also with operating the aircrafts as it is within current aircrafts and airlines also. But as Arne talked about previously, this will be very important to have a rapid start of the electric aircraft industry, so to say. And finally here, will there be a reason for public engagement? due to accessibility reason, as there is now, and or other social economic impacts from electric airlines that would make public engagement possible and necessary. On the demand side, it's more of a traditional analysis, I would say. We are interested in looking at an airport and the catchment area of each airport, that is population, income, preferences, and such things. And from that we can get some sort of travel propensity for airlines. And then we come back to the supply side, what sort of travel cost in a more general way will the electric airlines offer, and that will then determine the competitive possibilities compared to other modes. And of course, then when we look at the region, and we also have the inbound passengers coming into the region, and here attractiveness is very important. It can be the attractiveness of a city, the countryside, or a tourist area in the region. When we look at the roads, then we are very interested to see if we can develop, if it will be possible to develop roads within the Bothnia Atlantica region. Currently, most of the roads, so to say, in or related to the Bothnia Atlantic region, if external, it goes to the capitals of the region. But we are also interested to see how it will be with those external links to other regions. Looking at existing roads to see if they will become obsolete, some of them, or if there also will be new roads, and what will happen with the existing ones. And then it's of course important also to study what sort of network will develop here. Will it continue to be a hub and spoke type of network that dominates, as it is currently with Arlanda and Bromma as major airports in Sweden and Helsinki in Finland? Or can we have more point-to-point solutions where we go from airport to airport in a more way like Ryanair does? And there will be also perhaps possibility to develop very small airfields, so to say, heliports, for where you can, like helicopters or vertical aircraft, very rapidly go up and down. And that can be to a heliport to airport, or to a heliport to an airport. If you look at the regional impacts, we have, of course, the direct outputs of electric airlines and aircrafts. That is connected with the activities on airports, what type of roads will have, the operators, the airlines, aircraft and services offered. And then we will have changes perhaps in accessibility within the region and together to connect it to other regions. And that is what we talked about previously, travel time, emissions, accident, noise, and so depends on the accessibility depends on such effects. The larger outcomes of this direct, so to say, is of course impacts on the sustainable growth of the region. And here is the growth of the assets of the region important. And the most important asset for a region today is its human capital. May this development of electric airlines increase the human capital in the Bothnia Atlantica and the Kvarken region. That will be a very important task to study how that can be promoted. And that will of course then have an impact on the property values in the region. That is another very important asset. And together with those two, there is also a need to develop the social and cultural capital assets of the region. So to say, so we have decision making that will be improved, and new innovation systems that will be possible. And especially those things will be studied by the research group in Vasa.
Okay, thank you, and good morning for everyone also from my behalf. So in addition to what was already described in the work package 1, we are also going to analyze structures and institutions for increased cross-border innovation. So firstly, we will be sending a survey for regional actors during this autumn, more precisely within this month, to better understand their views on the potentials of electric aviation, as well as expected regional effects. So this will build a good basis then for later activities in the project. Secondly, we will also analyze successful methods and models dealing with cross-border innovation and, for example, commercialization of and also early implementation of new transportation technology. So this is done not only to support the development of electric aviation in the region, but also to support positive development effects in the region more broadly, and to strengthen public innovation capacity. So we will also benchmark, for example, different collaborative cross-border business models, building then a bridge also to the activities conducted in the VP3. Thirdly, related to these successful methods and models, we are also particularly interested in the opportunities related to the new EGTC, so European Grouping of Territorial Cooperation in the region as a legal innovation for accelerating implementation of electric aviation. So we will be looking at the experiences across Europe to find relevant examples and also good practices that could support the developments in the Kvarken region. Thank you. This was all from me, so over to Fredrik.
Thank you very much. And Helka, of course, I forgot to introduce you there. I was not sure if I would say something in between, but I make a post introduction of you as the Associate Professor at the Innovation Policy at the School of Management, Regional Studies, and also at the InnoLab Center at the University of Vasa. So thank you very much for your excellent presentations. Now we have very good understanding of 2 work packages, and we turn our attention now to a 3rd work package. And I think it was already mentioned a bit, the cross-border innovation process. And to give us a bit more insight there, I welcome Göran Peters to present the work package. Now, Göran is a senior design researcher at the Unit for Societal Transformation at RISE, which is the Research Institute of Sweden. So we are very keen to hear about work package 3. So if you are with us and the technology works, please, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Fredrik, for that introduction. Yes, my name is Jeroen Peters, working as a senior design researcher at RISE. Today here to talk about work package 3, also on behalf of my colleagues Malin Johansson, Nigel Papworth, Maria Fiskarud and Jonas Matting. The question that we are looking at in work package 3 is how do we strengthen the societal benefits of electric regional aviation through cross-border innovation processes? And for us this has 2 parts. On one hand, we will run an innovation process for societal development and new business models. And on the other hand, we will feed that into a competence network for electric aviation. First, I want to share a little bit about the approach we are taking. Our approach is based on the transformative practices methodology. This is a methodology developed by RISE in collaboration with the Eindhoven University of Technology. And it's a particular methodology for big systemic challenges, the kind of wicked problems that we face today. It's focused on multi-stakeholder collaboration. So how do we get as many perspectives and points of view, skills and competences together in a project to address such a challenge? And also it is driven by design. And I'll try to explain a little bit what I mean in driven by design. Our process has 7 different activities. There's the main one, you could say, to envision and create, which is to synthesize understanding in something new. There is collaborate and organize, where we try to create the conditions for many different stakeholders to be part of a project. There's act and experience, because we think that systemic challenges cannot be addressed from our home offices alone. We need to be out there and experience what these changes are or what they could be. There's communicate and engage. So how do we engage others, including the public, in our work, but also how do we communicate results? There's collect and analyze, which is perhaps the more analytical point of view, the data-driven point of view. And lastly, reflect and learn, to understand what knowledge we are creating together. These, as we go through this process, we are continuously reorientating our point of view. We don't think that systemic challenges can be understood from the beginning or just by one actor alone. We need to continuously reorientate and reframe the challenge at hand in order to understand small parts of it. The kind of activities that we are mentioning here create outputs, and these outputs we put into the world. We try to get response and feedback from many different people. This creates a sort of ripple effect, and we're trying to understand how these kind of ripples respond and how they shape our process in order to move forward. I'll try to be a little bit more concrete by giving a few examples of activities and outputs that you might expect from us. And for example, if we are talking about different routes or flexible times, if we're talking about different travel experience, what could that look like? Can we create a booking website where people actually experience what it's like to book distances that are short on flexible times with a cost associated that is to the best estimate of, for example, the Work in Work Package 2? How can we synthesize these kind of promising findings from other work packages into speculative proposals that make ideas real, that make them experienceable and understandable for the public, but also for other stakeholders, what they might mean? Can we visualize the expected but abstract regional societal benefits so that they can feed into the public debate and make that more alive? If we are talking about electric aviation, the pre-travel experience that I don't think anyone really likes might change, could be improved. Can we rethink that based on the conditions provided by electrical aviation? How does it feel to be on combined travel itineraries with rail or Uber or what have you? Or what are actually the citizens' biggest fears and expectations of electrical aviation? And how can we make those real? Could the electric aviation industry become not only a suitable alternative based on lower carbon footprint, but actually maybe keep some of the incentives that current aviation companies are implementing to promote CO2 footprint or better it? How can we simulate the experience of being on an electric flight? If using virtual reality or soundscapes, can we try to give a sense of what it will be like so that the public will understand before we start to implement it? How can values that are important for us up in this region, for example, safety, equality, sustainability, become embodied in electrical aviation in the whole concept of electrical aviation, not only in replacing the fuel or the mode of transport? Lastly, another example is what kind of business models and financial concepts can be used to prepare for an early implementation of electrical aviation. These are just a number of sort of questions that we could answer in this work package, and I think just from this morning I have about 20 more that we can work on. I also urge you to share other questions that you might have with us, and I'll come to that in a moment. The point I'm trying to make here is that in this work package, our mode of working is not necessarily analysis, it's more in the form of synthesis. We believe that for societal change, we need to create examples of what could be done. And those examples need to be concrete and clear, experienceable, so that multiple stakeholders and the public can understand what they might mean, and we can build on that understanding together. The second part of our work package is to develop and maintain a competence network around electrical aviation in the region and also beyond. This we will do together with the other partners in this project and also with the supporters. There's a huge interest, and I'm happy to see also that so many of you are here today to join us on this first public appearance. You can expect in the fall regular seminars and workshops that raise concrete challenges and find opportunities. We want to hear from everybody that is engaged in this kind of work what they have to offer, what they know, what their skills are, what their competencies are, and what their interests are, so that we can use those as input in our project. And of course, these kind of events and seminars will also become a place for us to share what we are producing in our work packages and in the project. Lastly, I think it's important to mention that we've already seen that it's very, very important that we include the societal drive in this competence network as well. There is a risk that we see this as a technological deterministic project. And if we're talking about regional development, regional benefits, and we are honest towards the complexity that we are addressing by changing our way of flying, we need to include also the societal point of view. But I'm happy to see that mentioned in many of the work packages and talks today. Lastly, with the competence network, our hope is also that we can create something that can live beyond this project and form a platform for electric aviation in the region for many years to come. Thank you. That was my presentation. Back to you, Fredrik.
Thank you very much, Göran. And I find that the combined effect of these three work packages are truly unique. I can tell you that I was recently in contact with a similar, but not at all identical, initiative in the west part of the US and Canada, in the region called Cascadia. And when they heard about our initiatives here in Scandinavia and about the Kvarken project, about this Nordic initiative for electric aviation, other things, they would simply die to be part of that process. So maybe we can also build those connections to other countries outside our region and fill that questions box that you asked for as well with interesting information and questions that they also have. So I find that these three packages that we just heard about are truly unique in the world right now. So that concludes the presentations of the work packages, and I hope you now, as well as myself, I have a much clearer view of how the FAIR project will run and how it will be working to be successful. I would also inform you that all the presentations will be available after the webinar, and we will all receive information how we can reach them. Now we move over to another section, and we're coming towards the end. But before we go there, we would like to welcome the stakeholders again. And I hope that you are still with us. So Åsa, Robert, and Trine, and maybe to have some reflections from you guys. And when I hear and see what we have just witnessed, what we just heard, I surely see that we are onto something big. And maybe as reflections from your side, if I can hear your views, do we have everything we need to make the project successful? If not, what more is needed? And also, do you see actors and other stakeholders that you would welcome on the stage with you? So please, maybe Åsa, would you start?
Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you for this very interesting day, or pre-day anyway. I'd like to start off with the fact that I myself is rather a technology freak, I'd say, I admit. I love new technology and what it can help us with in general. But with that said, I think it's most important to recognize what is this project for, who is it for? And it's primarily, as my point of view, is for our inhabitants in our region. And I think that is what we have to bear with us all the time. I think it was Lars Westin who took up the social capital, or human capital in our region. And I think that is what we need to bear in mind all the time in this project. I can be swept away about all the technology that we think of, and it's quite amazing, I think so. But what I am coming back to all along is what are the problems that we have to solve, and what new demands may arise. I think it was Jerome Peters now who just talked about that. We have to involve our citizens, and how will we use this project for further on. And just the cross-border cooperation, we have been doing that for very, very long time in Sweden and Finland. Umeå and Vasa in particular for, I don't know, 50, 60 years formally, and further on since that. So I think it's crucial to move forward with this one and more than enhance our cooperation through this. So which conditions are you lacking from us? So that will be my input in this deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Åsa. Very interesting reflections. And I certainly see also the human spirit here, as you said as well, because all the technology in the world will not change and will not take us to where we want to be unless we are there and also our needs and aspirations are reflected. So really appreciate that angle. Robert, how do you see things?
I see it as Åsa said. It makes our purpose is to make the world a little bit better place to be in for our children and grandchildren. It's the main course of developing, and I see it also that I want to make it possible for my children and grandchildren to have their businesses up in the north and have a good life here. And this is one of the unique opportunities that we stand before. We had the same, I think, for 100 years ago when we was building making electricity out of water, and we changed the world and changed the possibilities to live up here, and now have the same possibilities to do this in travel and see. And like Åsa said, also we have had a lot of history going on with our countries in Finland and Sweden, and also a lot of demands when we have a big sea in between us, and also up from the coastline in Sweden and up to the areas up in the fjell are really tough to conquer. But now we have the possibilities, and I think this, what I'm hearing today is we have all of the speakers has been said the same thing. So I don't see so much problems, only that we need to move on and quite rapidly.
Thank you, Robert. And we turn over to the other side, which is actually not the other side because we are all on the same side here. But still, how is the situation there, Trine? Some reflections from your side and your colleagues there.
Yes, thank you, Fredrik. Thank you, Åsa, and thank you, Robert. So many good thoughts and plans. To be very short, we know our role, as you mentioned, or you said, Fredrik, that we are the gardener for this region. But as you can also see, I'm not alone in the studio. I have my colleague with me here. We have colleagues behind the cameras in the studio, and we have also colleagues online. But Lasse Pohjala from VASEC in Vaasa, he is also a pilot. So do you have any reflections from today?
Thank you, Trine. So this has been a very interesting and exciting day for me professionally and as a hobby pilot as well. And for me, this is a great opportunity to leave the new era of aviation. And one thing is important for me as well. I can see this an opportunity for the small and medium-sized entrepreneurs in both sides of Kvarken. In Vaasa, we have a lot of technology, electrical technology, and we would like to combine our knowledge with the aviation knowledge in Sweden. And together we are strong, and we can really develop new business for companies in our region. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think we take with us from this short reflective minutes together from our stakeholders that we have essentially the elements in place to make the project successful. And I think we will also, everyone who is out there listening, I have no clue how many visitors we have to this session, but I'm sure there's quite a lot. And we all have a responsibility to support projects like this. Change doesn't come just like that, and certainly not change in good directions. Directions that, as Robert said, for our children, what do we want for them? And I myself would like not only myself, but my children to travel on clean aviation, because I want them to have access to the world, just like we had. And I think this is also a moment when it comes to, in history, when it comes to, let's say, our accessibility to the world. We have to protect that. That is something good. That is something of great value, and sometimes that's forgotten in the discussion. So maybe that's my addition to the reflections from stakeholders. I also would like to say that it looks like we are moving in the direction of a kind of a regional spring. I think that there is a tendency to look also in the European Union of the economic power and influence of the regions. We will probably move away from a focus only on the big capitals and the big concentrations of people in Europe. There is a need, and I think also an aspiration from everyone, that regional regions and regional locations, companies, the small scale industries and businesses will come and grow, and they need this accessibility. They need these transport modes that we will be able to offer them if projects like this is successful. And Trine, you being the gardener, then what we put now in the earth, we will then reap later in the spring. And I think that's the way we can also see this, that we are all helping you as co-gardeners, and together we will make this work. So we've come to the next short session. I promised that we would welcome questions, and we have a short Q&A session now, and I hope that some of the speakers are still online. And the questions, I will read them out here, that I have received are just a couple. I think there will be more questions as we work together. But here is a question to Lars Westin, for example. I think he will be very appropriate to answer this. Where will the electric aviation routes most likely be competitive in the Kvarken region? Lars, your thoughts on that?
Question. Yeah, that will of course be a study object of this project, but one can speculate already now. And in the short time, of course, electric aviation will not compete on roads from Umeå, Skellefteå to Arlanda, but on shorter distances. But there may also be possible, I guess, that the attributes of an electric aircraft can make it possible to develop routes within the region that we don't have now. And a very important route will, of course, be from Umeå to Vasa and Skellefteå, Vasa, Skellefteå, Jakobstad or so. But also from the coast to the inland, as was discussed, to touristic spots up in the mountain area. That would be very important to establish that type of routes. But we'll see. That has very much to do about the attributes, so to say, the costs and the way the new electric aircraft will work. But our ambition is to find that sort of roads.
Thank you, Lars. I find it's very interesting also that most studies I have seen so far when it comes to the possibilities for electric aviation to traffic our airspaces has actually been looking at existing routes. And I always find that a bit annoying, because I think everyone who has been coming a bit closer to the economics and also the benefits of having quieter aviation and carbon-free aviation, also aviation that will use less land space for taking off and landing, can certainly see that we should look at new routes, the routes that are not flown today, because there's simply no economy in that. So we will look forward to seeing a lot of interesting results from those studies. Another question, and I think maybe Arne will be the best recipient, and maybe Robert if he's still online as well, but Arne certainly. What are the most important prerequisites to consider in order to prepare an airport for electric aviation?
I think in the first case, you have to have a good electrical connection on the ground where you can serve chargers. And secondly, you have to have a charger when the standard is set. And then I think you can take down and get charge airplane. And also a safe place to have the connection, so it's not so close to other fueling systems.
Exactly, I think that's a very important point, because especially if we will see several energy sources that will have to coexist on an airport in the future. So we have sustainable aviation fuel, electricity, and also then eventually hydrogen. And it will be a challenge. Certainly, Robert will agree, a very interesting challenge for an airport operator to have those technologies combined. That was an interesting sound I just heard. I don't know if you heard that, but it sounded like a drum or something like that. So anyway, let's continue. We have another question. And this would probably go in the direction of Göran and Helka, if you're still online. How does FAIR consider the user perspective of electric aviation, and how does FAIR respond to those?
Yeah, I'm happy to share some thoughts on that. I think there are two main components to that. On one hand, it's how do we involve the public in the process, which can have different forms. It means for us very consciously to include and aim to include in the Compass network and in our activities actors from the public sector, for example, communes or let's say schools, ideelverenigingen, so idealistic, how do you say, groups of people that have a hobby or something that might be relevant, let's say parachutists, for example. But it can also mean that we involve lots of different actors actively in constructing the future ideas that we're talking about. So maybe we can have sessions with school children, or we've also already discussed sessions with students that help shape what electric flying could be with their particular point of view that we think is also valuable. And then I think there is an important role in the kind of outputs that our process will create. So for example, if we take the example of a booking website where we can integrate what you have been finding out about financing, what you have been finding out about routes, and we create a fake website that the public can use to understand how could travel be different. And I think we can get a lot of input from society in a way that is different from sharing more abstract thoughts and reports. So I think we can complement each other very nicely in engaging the public by making things as close to real as possible and feed the public debate in that way.
Thanks a lot. I don't know if Helka, do you have anything to add on that if you're still online?
Thank you. I was just going to add that the student perspective that we have indeed discussed already, that how could we involve students into this discussion, because it's they are the future users of these new modes of transportation. So this is something we have been discussing, but I don't have anything particular to add. So thank you.
Thank you very much. A question that could be interesting as well is certainly this, let's say, communications perspective. If we are in a change process, it's obvious to me. And as we know from all the trainings that we have taken in change management, is that communication is extremely important. And within the project, there will be a lot of communication. But maybe I can ask the project managers how you see the communications aspect of the project. How will you, what are your thoughts on that?
Excuse me, Fredrik, I was just on the coming into the studio once again. The communications aspect, was that the question?
Yes.
Yeah, we consider communication, of course, to be a central point and very important to the project. We will be using our contacts list for the project, and which are every day it's increasing with new actors, and it's really exciting. We will also, just for now, we are in a knowledge building phase, but as long as the project continues, we will be very willing and keen to share our results and be more outgoing in the process, and I think that will be noticed by all actors linked to our project. So we will be presenting our results further down the line, and looking forward to that.
Thank you. I have a very particular reason for asking that as well, because I have been, as you probably have seen, quite interested and trying to not only follow but to drive the discussion about future aviation. And one thing which is for sure is that in the let's say political climate, but also because of the constraints that Corona gives us, communication becomes all the more important to reach out with the visions and the good things that are happening. One can easily have a feeling that society is going downwards at the same time as this project shows that, well, we are going upwards in many ways, in literally and in speaking. So a last question maybe, if anyone in the audience listening to this webinar would like to participate, cooperate, or share information with FAIR, how do you get in contact with FAIR? Anyone really, but maybe you as a project leader.
Of course, the easiest way to get in contact with the project is to contact one of the project managers, either me, Andreas Forsgren, or Isak Brännström. Or you could also contact the Kvarken Council, either Matthias Lindström or Johanna Häggman, our communicator in the project. That would be the easiest way. And then we share all our information and communication within the project once we have made contact.
Thank you very much. So I think I don't have any more questions on my screen. So let's then slowly move into closing this very interesting FAIR kickoff event. And it's been a virtual event for some of us. I'm jealous, of course, of those of you who had the opportunity to meet in person there, but I'm sure that a next meeting will come and then we will all be able to meet. I take with me many things from this kickoff. And turning back to what Jorma presented, he had some 3 C's: customer-orientated, carbon-free, cost-effective. And I think we can already see that those 3 C's will be easily into 4, 5, 6, and many more C's. And I add myself cooperative, collegial, change management, and a change which is better for everyone. And this is, I think, the perspectives that we should have, together with fertilizing that garden that Trine will help us to keep as beautiful as possible. So moving now into the closing session or closing statements. So Andreas, now we have heard a lot of interesting speeches and presentations. We have seen a lot. We have had a Q&A session as well, and I think we had very good answers to all the questions. What are your reflections from a project management perspective? What are your take with you home messages?
Oh, as a project manager, I'm very happy and excited today because we have managed our first big activity, which is the kickoff. And the aim of the kickoff is, of course, to get to know our finances and our partners more closely and present what we are actually doing, which phase we are in the project. And as being told, we have had a planning phase during the early summer, and now we're going into more of an implementation phase. And I hope that everybody has got a better picture of the project. If there are any questions, please use the chat and we will try to answer the whole group more in detail, or just get in contact with anyone in the project, primarily the Kvarken Council or the project management. But I'm very happy today that we have this opportunity to share what we're doing in the project, and also to tell more about where we're going to be in 2 years' time, which is it's quite a short time period actually for this huge task, but it's great to be a part of it, and I think that the region is really on the right track here. I think this will be an important and exciting project for the whole of the Kvarken region, and hopefully for other regions as well, around in the Nordic and in an international context. So, but I have a question for you, Fredrik, if it's okay. Since you have a great expertise in this area of electric aviation, and since we are working with this task, when do you see that the first commercial airline could actually be up in running on electric aviation and on electricity? I think everybody in the audience is quite curious on just that question.
Yeah, so just recently, maybe you saw that I also had the opportunity to join this fantastic session in a hangar at Säve Airport in Gothenburg, where Heart Aerospace presented how far they have come so until this point in their production or design of their Heart ES-19. And if we look at that segment of size and range, we heard there that they are supposed to be ready and in production by 2026. And when I received the question that day from the media, exactly the same as you just asked me, Andreas, when will we be able to fly commercially on this aircraft? Well, I would say that, you know, we should all have had the opportunity to fly commercially on that aircraft or similar between 2026 and 2030. So by 2030, I will be surprised if not most of us have had the chance to fly on a fully electric aircraft regionally in Sweden, in Scandinavia, and certainly between or in the Kvarken region. So that would be my estimation, and not to forget that there will be other commercial flights possible with smaller electrical aircraft. So some might even be able to do that before that time, but now we're talking about a fairly large aircraft of 19 passengers. So we know that there are many projects out there that are looking at smaller aircraft, but still commercial aviation. And of course, between that time and now, we can all enjoy flying small electric aircraft in the flight clubs, where the Pipistrel Velis Electro will be introduced. And I know that they are coming now. They are in serial production of the certified aircraft. And I myself look forward to going down to, for example, Gothenburg and join the Aeroklubben there and maybe have a test flight of that aircraft so that we can have a first taste, an appetizer. So with that, I would like to thank the organizers, all the speakers, and all the people behind the scenery, because it's been a huge task, I'm sure, to set up this interregional webinar with broadcasting from several locations simultaneously. And I think you have made a fantastic job. It was also my first moderation of a virtual event. And I have no clue how you think it went, but I'm myself happy that it went so smooth, and I want to thank the organizers for that. And I would like to close by holding this document up. This is for first page of the Swedish aviation industry's roadmap to fossil-free aviation. This was released 2 years ago. Today, Norway presented their own fossil-free roadmap or plan. I'm sure that Finland will do that soon as well. And then we have really what it takes to make this region into the first fossil-free aviation region in the world. That's a perspective, and that's where FAIR fits so perfectly in that picture. So thank you everyone for joining, and I hope you forgive the 3 minutes overtime, but I hope that you agree with me that it was worth it. Thank you everyone. Thank you.